All right, welcome back to the pre-TI team preview and reviews, where I'm just going to go through every single team, starting from the bottom of the DPC standings, going up, covering every single team, reviewing their past seasons, past tournaments from this past DPC season. So pretty much from now all the way back until the start of this year, 2021. And then previewing, I'm going to be doing like a brief preview of how I think they're going to do in the tournament. And once I'm done doing every single team, I'm going to do a full prediction on how well I think every team's going to do, just because I'm going to have I'm going to have a better grasp on every single team going in, even if it's just statistics that I'm looking at. I do know a lot of these teams pretty well, but China, for example, is one of the regions that I am very new to. I only started watching the Chinese region very regularly this year. So these are not teams that I know nearly as well as teams from North America, teams from Western Europe, or anything like that. So, so next on our list, starting from the bottom of the DPC standings, like I said, this is the second lowest seeded team in the DPC standings to have qualified for TI. They are coming from all the way from the Chinese region, and they are Team Elephant, or just Elephant. And similar to OG, they finished just below the line, just below the cutoff point for both majors this year. So they actually have not played against any other teams going to this TI other than the ones from their own region. So a lot of these matchups here for teams that they played against that are against TI, they're all from China as well. And just because they finished fifth place, just like with OG, how they just finished below the cutoff point for all the majors, these guys are not to be taken lightly at all. China is a stacked region, and this is one of the most stacked teams to have just barely made it to TI as well. These guys are super good. They've got a super talented lineup. They've had a lot of veterans and a lot of success in TI. However, none of them have actually won TI. A lot of them have come second place, third place, fourth place, but none of them have actually won. However, they had very consistent runs in TI. I believe at least four of the players have been at 4 TIs and finished in the top 8. So that's pretty solid for just a team that barely made it out of the Chinese region. But yes, jumping into the points now, these guys had accumulated a total of 100 points for finishing 5th place in both of the DPC seasons. However, because they had that player change at the end of Season 2, where they swapped out Red Panda for Super, they lost 15 points. But just like with OG, it really didn't affect the matter of the standings. They weren't going to make it off points anyways. They weren't even close. So it didn't really have that much of an impact anyways. And it seems to have worked out for the better, because they had pretty lukewarm, pretty middle of the pack results when they had Red Panda. But then after they subbed him out, they won all their games. Obviously, they are playing against all the lower tier teams that they were able to beat in previous seasons, but they were able to do it consistently enough to actually get it through the tournament. And with a new player coming in that soon, and I believe it was only like a month and a half or a month before qualifiers, and they were able to do that. So it's pretty impressive on their part to have made that switch and still didn't have to worry about not making it to TI. So yes, they finished with 85 points, finished 28th overall out of every team in every single region in the standings, and they finished 5th in their region. So 4 teams made it from China just from the DPC standings, and these guys were right below them. When it comes to seeding in the Chinese region, obviously they are far off in points. And looking now at their seasons, like I said, they finished 5th place in both their seasons. And what's actually funny is in the Season 1, they were actually tied for 4th place with PSG LGD, who they had beaten in that season. However, they lost the tiebreaker to that one, which knocked them out of the cutoff point for the first major, which PSG LGD ended up finishing 3rd place in. So PSG LGD making the most of that tiebreaker win. So after that season, going 4-3, they accumulate their first 50 points there, and then they finished 3-4 the next season, 5th place with another 50 points there. And then finally in the qualifiers, obviously they came 1st place because they made it, finishing with a 4-1 record, and they have qualified to TI. So they are the 5th team representing China, and I can safely say that all 5 teams going to China deserve to be there. Like, these guys are stacked, these guys are talented as all hell. There's a lot of veterans, a lot of rookies in all 5 of these teams, and I would be very surprised if China doesn't win the TI this year. They've got 5 of the 18 teams, and there's really no weak link. Like, the only reason these guys finished with like barely any points is because only 4 teams were able to make it to the majors, and they were the 5th place team both times. Anyways, looking at their matchups now, this is where they kind of struggled. So we know that they're a lot better than the lower half of the teams in their upper division in China, because they were able to reliably beat them in both seasons and in the qualifiers. However, they struggle against the top half of the teams, which is 4 of them. So we have Vici Gaming, Aster, PSG LG, and Invictus. So they kind of find themselves in a weird middle of the road pack where they're the exact divider between the top half and the bottom half of that region. So yes, looking in the first season, they lost all their series against all four of those teams that I mentioned, except PSG LGD, which they beat once in a best of three. They beat them 2-1. But like I said, that put them tied in the standings with PSG LGD, where they rematched against for a tiebreaker, and then they lost it. So moving on to season 2, after they missed out on the first major, they again lost against 3 of the 4 teams, beating only Invictus Gaming, which is actually funny because Invictus Gaming had just won that major, and then that was the only team that they beat. So a little funny there. Looking now at their stats, pick order, and win rates and all that, whatever. I didn't bother going back to their season 2 stats like I did for OG, because I just figured it had been a really long time since that happened, and it's the meta has shifted a lot, even from just the qualifiers to now. The meta has shifted quite a bit when it comes to heroes and stuff. Obviously, the overall patch is still pretty relatively equal to how it was before, but there's a bunch of new heroes. So I just stuck with the 14 games that they had played in the qualifiers for these stats. And in those 14 games, they had played on Radiant and Dire an equal amount of times, going 5-2 on both of them. And same thing for first pick and last pick. What's funny is that in all 14 games that they had played all of them either on second pick Radiant or on first pick Dire. There was not a single game where they were first pick Radiant, and there was not a single game where they were last pick Dire. So just goes to show how broken first pick was. If you didn't get first pick, well, then you had to take Radiant. So yeah, that's it's a good thing that was changed. So anyways, they were 5-2 in pretty much everything. Their game 1 stats, they were 3-2, and their game 2 stats is where they really shine. They were 4-1 in game 2s, and then in game 3s they were 2-1. And then obviously in the game 4, the one game 4 that they played, they won that one against eHome as well. Looking now at the heroes that they've played, they have played a total of 36 different heroes. They're most played and most successful because they pretty much won every single game they played in this tournament. They won 10-4, so a lot of their best heroes is their most played heroes. For example, Winter Wyvern, they played 4 times, went 4-0. As well as Mirana, Hoodwink, Leshrac, and Lion all going 3-1, and Terrorblade Lena going 3-0. So pretty prominent. And it's funny because not a lot of people were playing the mid Lena, but it was actually Somnus that was playing a lot of the Lena most of the time. Most teams were running it as a 4 position and had been running it as a 4 position for quite some time now. So yes, their best heroes again, Wyvern, Mirana, Hoodwink. I could list more because they all have the same win rate. Their worst heroes were actually Death Prophet and Phoenix, which were only 1 and 2. They only picked 3 times. Again, they didn't lose very many games, so I had to be pretty nitpicky for this last one here. There were a bunch of heroes that were 0-1. I went with Puck. Puck was kind of the hero of the year, it seemed like, so I just figured I'd throw that on there. Looking at the most banned heroes by Elephant, they had banned a total of 40 different heroes across their 14 games, 9 of which on Death Prophet, 8 of those on Luna, and 7 of them on Doom. And most banned against them was actually Dragon Knight. They had Dragon Knight banned against them in the first phase 10 times throughout their 14 games. Nyx Assassin 8 times, and then Darkseer 6 times. So, you know, China, we always knew that was really prioritizing this Nyx Assassin, so not really surprised to see that. And then ever since that second major, everyone's been raving about this Dragon Knight hero, so not really surprised to see that there either. Looking at their active roster right now, so like I said, right before this qualifier, they swapped out Red Panda for Super. And so looking at their stats, obviously they all went 4-1 in this tournament. Their highest placing at TIs, at previous TIs, we have Eurus, aka Paparazzi, who finished 5th/6th at TI9. We had Somnus and FY, who both finished 2nd place at TI8, and then FY and Super also finished 2nd place on VG Gaming at TI4. So they've been playing together for quite some time as well. It's kind of funny that they brought him in at the last second when they've played with each other for that long. And then finally we have Yang, who also finished 5th and 6th at TI9 on that VG Gaming stack. And now to the inactive player, we have Red Panda, who is a relatively new player and has not actually played at a TI yet. This would have been his first one if he had been on the roster when they qualified. Unfortunately, he has not attended a single TI as a player yet, so he has not done. He has no results for TI. Looking at their team stats now, their record obviously was 2-1-1. This is excluding the best of 5 series because this is just a record for best of 3 series. Their average GPM was very high. I believe it was the highest of the entire qualifiers from every region with 2560. Their average XPM was the 2nd highest of the entire qualifiers. They were only behind Team Undying from North America with 3003. Their average KDA 4.93, so much higher than OG's yesterday. Still not near, still not the highest, but it's still very impressive to have a 4.93 KDA. And then their average match duration, which was actually very long, was 46 minutes and 11 seconds. A big part of that was because they had that one match against RNG that went to almost 2 hours long. And when you have only 14 games going for you, that one game that's like the equivalent of 3 games is going to have a pretty big impact on your average match duration. So that's a little bit inflated, but it's still much, much longer than anything that OG had, which they were under 40 minutes. So yeah, that's going to do it. This was my review of Team Elephants DPC year and their seasons thus far, as well as I'm looking for these guys to do pretty well. Like I said earlier, the Chinese region is crazy stacked. These guys have a crazy stacked roster. When you think about these guys with the team that almost didn't make it, these guys are like the scraps, technically, of the Chinese region that almost didn't make it. Yet they have so many veterans that have all done so well at TI in the past. And very consistently, too. Like I said, Somnus has been in the top 4, I believe, 3 times. And same thing goes for FY. They go all the way back to TI4 and Super. So, yeah, I'm looking for these guys to do pretty well. And I would be very, very surprised if they end up in eliminated from the group stage. I think these guys are going to make it to... I would say they have a good shot at making it to the upper bracket if they can get themselves to beat those upper-tier Chinese teams, which, like I said, they're kind of below those upper-tier Chinese teams, but they're way above those lower-tier Chinese teams. So we'll have to see. They have another month to work on their game. They have another month to prepare for this big tournament, but... I would put some money on these guys making it pretty far. I can see a lower bracket run happening for these guys. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be having another video uploaded on Thursday where I'm going to be going over SGE Esports or SG Esports from South America, and I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for them. So if you don't want to miss that, please be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in 2 days. All right, bye.